Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. Sometimes the woman you care about will hurt you, not intentionally always, but either through her words, actions, or choices. And the way you respond to that pain determines everything: your self-respect, your emotional control, and even whether she respects or values you moving forward. I know, it sounds harsh, but it's reality. Men often think that handling hurt means reacting, defending, or trying to fix her. But the reality is far simpler and far more powerful than that. Women don't need your excuses, your apologies, or your chase to make it right. What we respond to is strength, clarity, and emotional integrity. Here's another truth. Not all women handle conflict or awareness of their impact gracefully. Some will feel guilty, some will justify their actions, some will even push further if they sense you're vulnerable or unsure. And if you react from hurt, anger, or confusion, you give her power over you. That's why understanding how to handle a woman who hurts you is less about controlling her and more about mastering yourself. This isn't about being cold or uncaring. It's about seeing the truth clearly. You need to understand how women think in these moments, why we act the way we do, and what really matters to us when it comes to respect, emotional boundaries, and attraction. Once you get that, you stop reacting impulsively and start responding intelligently. In this video, I'm going to teach you exactly how to handle a woman who hurts you from a female perspective. I'll share what's really going through her mind, how her behavior often reflects her own fears or needs, and most importantly, what you can do to maintain your dignity, clarity, and attraction in the process. 1. Why she hurts you. And it's not always malicious. The first thing I want you to understand is this. When a woman hurts you, it's not always because she wants to. Women hurt men in different ways, and often it's a reflection of her own struggles, insecurities, or even lack of awareness. Not a personal attack. That doesn't make it any less painful, but it does change how you should handle it. I'll tell you how it looks from our side. Sometimes she says something thoughtless during a heated conversation. A comment about your choices, your past, or even the way you handled a situation. Or maybe she makes a decision without thinking of your feelings, like cancelling plans at the last minute or sharing something sensitive with someone else. The point is, the hurt is real, and you feel it. But what's happening inside her isn't always malicious. Often, she's reacting from stress, fear, or an unconscious habit. Not from a desire to wound you. I remember a moment with a man I cared about. He had planned a weekend together, and I didn't realize how important it was to him. I cancelled for a last-minute work thing, thinking it was fine, and I could feel how frustrated he got. The words he said, sharp and stinging, came from that frustration and hurt. I wasn't trying to hurt him, but my actions and his perception collided. He left the conversation feeling dismissed, and I left feeling guilty and defensive. That's exactly how these situations play out. Both sides feeling misunderstood. Men often react to hurt by immediately defending themselves, blaming her, or shutting down emotionally. But that's rarely effective. The first step is understanding why she hurt you. Is it deliberate? Probably not. Is it careless or thoughtless? Often, yes. And sometimes it's because she doesn't know how her actions affect you, or she's caught up in her own emotions. If you can internalize this truth, you stop reacting impulsively and start seeing the bigger picture. The hurt is real, but the intent behind it might not be. And recognizing that difference gives you power. It lets you respond with clarity, maintain your dignity, and communicate in a way that doesn't escalate conflict, but still honors your feelings. The key takeaway here is simple. Not all hurt is betrayal. Sometimes it's a reflection of human imperfection, mismatched priorities, or emotional blind spots. Understanding that helps you see her actions with perspective and sets the stage for handling the situation in a way that protects your heart and keeps respect intact. 2. The trap of reacting from pain. Here's something men need to hear clearly. Reacting from pain is the fastest way to lose control and clarity in any interaction with a woman. When you feel hurt, your instinct is to defend yourself, lash out, or demand an explanation. But here's the truth. Those reactions rarely fix anything. In fact, they often escalate the problem and give her power over your emotions. Women notice energy more than words. If you respond with anger, sadness, or passive aggression, she immediately senses it. And even if she didn't intend to hurt you, your reaction becomes part of the dynamic. Suddenly, the conversation isn't about what she did anymore. It's about your reaction. That's when things get messy. Pain triggers judgment, and judgment often clouds perspective. You might start imagining intentions that aren't there. You might replay scenarios over and over in your mind, convincing yourself she's trying to manipulate or disrespect you. But the reality is often much simpler. She's human, she's flawed, and sometimes she just acted without thinking. The real challenge is separating your feelings from your response. Feeling hurt is natural. You can't control emotions. But how you act on them is completely under your control. That's where men who handle this well stand out. They acknowledge the pain privately, process it, and then respond thoughtfully rather than impulsively. Another trap is seeking immediate closure. Many men demand an explanation or apology right away. But women often need time to process their own side of the story. Pushing her too quickly for clarity can backfire, making her defensive or even dismissive. Waiting, observing, and choosing your timing carefully communicates strength and emotional intelligence. And it often resolves conflicts more effectively than a heated reaction. Here's the point. Pain is a signal, not a call to attack. It's your body telling you something matters, but it's not a mandate to respond rashly. If you can pause, reflect, and approach the situation with calm confidence, you maintain your self-respect and create space for a healthier outcome. So the next time a woman hurts you, resist the instinct to react immediately. Give yourself space to feel, process, and respond. That's the difference between a man who loses control and a man who turns a difficult moment into an opportunity to strengthen the connection or at least preserve his dignity. 3. Understanding her emotional filters. Here's something men often miss. When a woman hurts you, it's filtered through her own emotions, experiences, and biases. She doesn't operate purely rationally. Very few women do. What she says or does is influenced by how she feels in the moment, her past, and even her fears. Understanding that helps you stop taking everything personally. Women's emotions are layered. She might be frustrated, insecure, stressed, or even scared, and that affects her behavior. Sometimes her words sting more than they mean to because she's projecting her own fears onto the situation. Or maybe she's acting defensively, trying to protect herself from feeling vulnerable. In other words, the hurt isn't always about you. It's about what she's carrying internally. Another thing to understand is that women often communicate indirectly. Instead of saying what they feel directly, they'll drop hints, make sharp comments, or behave in ways that reveal frustration or disappointment. If you react only to the surface words, you're missing the real signals. Women expect men to read between the lines, not perfectly, but with emotional awareness. Now, this doesn't mean you should excuse bad behavior. It simply means that context matters. The same words can hurt differently depending on her mood, stress level, or relationship patterns. if you see her actions as a reflection of her emotional filters rather than a personal attack, it becomes easier to respond calmly and intelligently. Women also respond to how you handle their mistakes or hurtful behavior. If you react with emotional stability and understanding, it doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're emotionally mature. That maturity encourages her to see your perspective and adjust her behavior. Conversely, if you respond impulsively, emotionally, or aggressively, you reinforce the cycle of hurt and defensiveness. The takeaway is this: women aren't always deliberately trying to hurt you, but their emotions and communication style can create real pain. Understanding that it's filtered through her perspective allows you to stay grounded, see her intentions more clearly, and respond in a way that preserves your dignity while encouraging better behavior. So, when you're hurt, pause and think. What is really motivating her actions? What emotions are influencing her behavior? Recognizing these filters gives you a huge advantage in navigating conflict and in turning a moment of pain into a moment of growth. 4. When forgiveness meets self-respect. One of the hardest things for a man to understand is how women think about forgiveness. When a woman hurts you, forgiveness isn't automatic. It's weighed against respect. And that balance is critical. You can forgive her, but if it comes at the cost of your self-respect, you've lost more than the argument. You've lost the dynamic entirely. I remember a situation with a man I was close to. We had an argument, and I said things in the heat of the moment that stung him deeply. At first he was quiet, clearly processing, not lashing out. He didn't demand explanations or apologies immediately. Over the next couple of days, he kept his distance, not coldly, but firmly, showing that while he cared, he wouldn't allow himself to be dismissed or disrespected. That approach changed everything. When he came back to talk, there was clarity. He forgave, yes, but it was clear that forgiveness didn't erase his boundaries. He communicated how he felt, expressed what was acceptable moving forward, and maintained his standards. That balance of emotional honesty and self-respect created respect and understanding between us, rather than lingering resentment or confusion. Here's the truth. Women notice when a man forgives, but doesn't compromise his integrity. It sends a powerful signal that he values himself, that he won't tolerate unnecessary hurt, but that he's also capable of emotional intelligence and growth. Forgiveness without boundaries, on the other hand, often leads to repeated patterns of hurt. Men often think that immediate forgiveness or over-explaining proves strength. But what actually proves strength is patience, measured responses, and a clear line between compassion and tolerance. You can forgive, but you must also hold her accountable, and hold yourself accountable for maintaining your own emotional standards. When forgiveness meets self-respect, something unexpected happens. She gains insight into your value. She sees that hurting you has consequences, and that those consequences aren't manipulative. They're natural outcomes of your standards. That understanding often encourages healthier behavior and deeper connection, far more than reactive arguments ever could. So remember, forgiveness is not weakness, but self-respect is non-negotiable. The real growth happens when the two coexist, creating a dynamic where both of you can interact honestly, safely, and with mutual respect. 5. The power of quiet boundaries. When a woman hurts you, one of the most powerful tools you have is setting clear, quiet boundaries. This isn't about yelling, punishing, or giving ultimatums. It's about communicating your limits through your actions and maintaining your self-respect. Women notice boundaries more than lectures, and they respond to them, often more than they respond to words. The key is subtlety. You don't need to make a speech about what's unacceptable or create drama. Simply holding your ground, showing consistency, and refusing to tolerate behavior that hurts you speaks volumes. Quiet boundaries show that you value yourself, that you won't compromise your dignity, and that your emotional well-being matters. Many men fall into the trap of over-explaining, defending, or begging for understanding. But women respond to men who can maintain composure. When you set a boundary calmly, it communicates strength without aggression. It signals that you're capable of self-control, that you recognize the problem, and that you won't be drawn into unnecessary conflict. It's also important to differentiate between love and tolerance. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough to protect yourself. You can still be emotionally available and loving while refusing to accept hurtful behavior. That balance is magnetic to women because it demonstrates both empathy and self-respect. Another critical point: boundaries are not just about controlling her behavior, they're about controlling your response. You can't control how she acts, but you can control how you react. If she crosses a line, enforce your boundary quietly, consistently, and without overreaction. Over time, this teaches her what is acceptable and what isn't, often without a single confrontation. Finally, understand that quiet boundaries create space for reflection. When a woman sees that her actions have consequences, she is more likely to adjust her behavior. She may feel challenged, but that challenge fosters respect and, in many cases, deeper emotional connection. So the real power lies not in arguing, punishing, or retaliating, but in maintaining your standards calmly and consistently. Quiet boundaries protect your heart, teach her respect, and keep you in control of the dynamic. And that's how men truly handle a woman who hurts them. 6. Reading her true intentions. When a woman hurts you, it's natural to wonder why she acted the way she did. Understanding her intentions is key to responding in a way that protects your heart and preserves respect. Women don't always communicate our motives clearly, but there are patterns if you know what to look for. First, consider the context of her actions. Is she stressed, distracted, or overwhelmed? Sometimes what feels like hurtful behavior is just a side effect of her life circumstances. Women carry a lot emotionally, and when that weight spills over, it can affect how we interact. That doesn't make the hurt any less real for you, but it does mean her intentions aren't necessarily malicious. Next, notice consistency. If a woman repeatedly hurts you in the same way, it's likely a pattern, not a fluke. Patterns are a window into her emotional habits and priorities. A single slip can be forgiven, but repeated behavior signals something deeper about how she engages with you and her relationships in general. Understanding that helps you decide whether to invest further, address the behavior, or step back. Women also test boundaries subtly. When she hurts you, it can be a way to gauge your response, to see whether you will tolerate disrespect, overreact, or enforce your limits. Her actions often reflect how she perceives your strength and self-respect. If she sees you react emotionally or inconsistently, she may feel entitled to push further. If she sees calm, measured responses, she often respects your boundaries and adjusts accordingly. Another thing to consider is emotional maturity. Some women aren't fully aware of the impact of their actions. Hurtful behavior can come from immaturity, lack of self-awareness, or unprocessed emotional baggage. Recognizing this allows you to separate intent from impact and choose whether to address it or let it go. Finally, pay attention to follow through. Words matter, but actions reveal true intentions. A woman may apologize or explain, but if behavior doesn't change, that's a clear indicator of her priorities. Understanding the difference between intention and action gives you clarity and prevents repeated pain. The key takeaway: don't assume hurtful behavior is always deliberate. Look for patterns, context, and consistency. Pay attention to her responses to your boundaries. Understand that intentions and impact can differ, and let that guide your reaction. Reading her true intentions keeps you grounded, protects your emotions, and allows you to navigate conflict with wisdom rather than impulsive reaction. 7. The wake-up call. You can't ignore. If a woman hurts you and you repeatedly let it slide without setting boundaries, you're teaching her, and yourself, that your feelings don't matter. And that's not just dangerous for your self-respect. It erodes attraction. Women notice when men allow hurtful behavior, and while we may love or care for you, a lack of firmness changes how we value you emotionally. Too often, men think patience equals strength. But patience without boundaries can quickly look like tolerance for disrespect. If you forgive without consequence, if you let every slip slide, you create a pattern where she unconsciously expects it. That dynamic quietly chips away at your authority in the relationship, and it's usually at the expense of your emotional health. Men also fall into the trap of over-explaining themselves or trying to fix her hurt. Here's the truth. Her feelings are hers. You can empathize, clarify your intentions, and communicate respectfully, but you cannot control her emotions. Trying to do so only puts you in a reactive position, giving her unearned power over your energy. The stronger, more attractive move is to maintain clarity, uphold your standards, and act with integrity. Another wake-up call. If you ignore repeated hurt, you risk teaching her that your respect is conditional on her actions. Women respond strongly to men who enforce their boundaries consistently. That enforcement is not punishment. It's a signal that you value yourself and your emotional well-being. It encourages accountability and often improves the relationship, even if the immediate response is resistance or defensiveness. Here's the real lesson. Handling hurt from a woman is not about manipulation, revenge, or playing games. It's about reflection, discipline, and communication. You need to reflect on why her actions affect you, recognize the boundaries you want to enforce, and act in a way that is consistent with your values. Here's a truth many men don't want to hear. If a woman hurts you and you let it slide without reflection or boundaries, you are losing more than just that moment. You're losing yourself. Emotional pain is a signal, not a weakness. It's your body telling you that something in the dynamic isn't right. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away. It teaches her, and yourself, that your feelings are optional. Handling a woman who hurts you is not about revenge, manipulation, or trying to control her. It's about mastering yourself. It's about understanding why her actions affect you, setting clear boundaries, and responding in a way that preserves your dignity. Women notice this. We see strength, consistency, and emotional intelligence. And that's what commands respect and attraction. Here's the bold truth. You can forgive, you can empathize, and you can care. But if you compromise your self-respect, you lose the game entirely. Women may test, push, or hurt out of ignorance, fear, or habit. How you respond determines the course of the relationship and the level of respect she has for you. I want you to think about the last time a woman hurt you. How did you react? Did you maintain your standards, or did you allow the hurt to control you? Share your experience in the comments below. I'll be reading and responding because this isn't just theory. It's about real situations, real growth, and real respect. Remember, strength, clarity, and boundaries are not optional. They're what make a man unforgettable, and the way to handle a woman who hurts you without losing yourself in the process.